Hey top shelfers, maybe you've gone to a bar and you wanted to expand your palate. You've heard how popular gin is, but you've had gin and tonics and are they really all they're cracked up to be? Let me tell you, I've got 3 gins, 2 that are popular and 1 that's quite unique that I think you guys will want to check out today. Hi guys and welcome to the bar, where we make great cocktails inspired by history. Today I wanted to bring you guys back to my liquor cabinet. As you guys know, I love history and I love making drinks based on history. And as such, I have accumulated such a large collection of alcohol, around 180 bottles and counting with every single day. Today I wanted to bring you guys towards the gin part of my collection. Now, with the whole point of this liquor cabinet, Gabe's liquor cabinet, is that I wanted to introduce people who may not be familiar with certain bottles, with certain alcohols or spirits, and be able to tell them what they are like, what they taste like, what they may be good in for different cocktails, if they want to make them themselves, or perhaps they're going to a bar and they want to order at a bar. If you're just getting introduced to some of these alcohols, then this will be a great overview in introducing you to these particular types of brands, these tastes, and these spirits. For gin, gin is a wonderful, very bright, flowery, botanical tasting liquor that has a very long legacy. It's very popular in England and has been for a long time with such iconic brands like Bombay, and it also has leapt over into the States with their own big time brands like AVIATION, for example. So for you, I have 3 different types of gins specifically to give you 3 different types of tastes, and also with the styles, there's definitely there's some differentiation between how these will play out in cocktails and how they will taste. So let's get into it. Our first gin today is Aviation American Gin. Now, because this is an American style gin, what I have found with Aviation is that they really like to go a lot heavier on the Juniper flavor, which is delightful and does a really good job of mixing with other clear alcohols and also any botanicals and a lot of fruit as well, because Juniper itself has this kind of fruity taste, which is quite refreshing, but it's not tart, nor is it too sweet. So you have that alcoholic punch that you're expecting from gin without any overly bitter aftertastes, whether bittersweet or bitter dry, for example. Firstly, I absolutely love the design of this bottle. It is very sleek, very Art Deco. Aviation was begun in Portland, Oregon, and really kind of took off when Ryan Reynolds, the actor, bought the company and really brought it to a lot of prominence with his excellent advertising. Then he sold the majority stake of the company, and he still does, I believe, some marketing for them, but he now has a minority stake, or he's completely sold his stake, but he still does some marketing for them regardless, because Aviation is still tied to his own personal brand. Now, as far as the color, it's a beautiful clear color that you can expect with every type of gin, which means that it's going to be not aged. So, you know, when most spirits are distilled, they actually come out as clear because, you know, they've been removed from all of the impurities that they may have, which you really want, because when you go through the distilling process, there's a batch of that really is dangerous to ingest, which is why there's such major regulations on the alcoholic industry, so as to ensure that when people are consuming the alcohol, that they aren't killing themselves. Just why bathtub gins are very illegal. And bathtub gin occurring from the 1930s Prohibition term, where people were making it in their bathtubs and they weren't removing some of these impurities, which allowed them to become dangerous, you know, and poisonous. We don't want that. So luckily, with this gin, it is absolutely beautifully clear. Has that wonderful juniper smell. I love the berry smell, the fruity smell of this one. Not bitter at all, on the nose at least. You can't really have any of those bitter scents that you get. Now, with one of the things that I've come across with gins is that they actually have a lot of different botanicals and flavors, whether it's roots or it's particular fruits or spices that will go into each of their gins to make them unique and to give it that iconic gin flavor. Bombay does a great job of us being able to list all of their ingredients on the side of the bottle. Aviation, not so much, but we definitely can pick up some of those flavors. Let's give it a taste though. Immediately you get that fruitiness. The wonderful juniper berry comes right through on the tip of the tongue and it proceeds all the way through towards the back. You don't get some of those bitter dryness that's so signature with gin until after you swallow and all that kind of comes out, the bitter aftertaste. It's like after you breathe out, you start to get those extra flavors, and it starts at the back of the tongue and then moves to the front. Now this is, I believe, 42% alcohol. Yes, that is correct, 42% alcohol. So we definitely have some bite, some sting, some burn. There's some numminess on the tongue, but only on the tip of the tongue, a little bit towards the sides, but also they're really awakened by that bitterness too. Down the chest, you feel a little bit of a burn, not too bad overall, relatively smooth in all things, in my opinion at least, and it tastes very, very good. This particular brand, considering its penchant for fruitiness, or at least a fruit-forward taste, I think would do really, really well with other clear alcohols, things like vodka, or you know, even if you want to get adventurous, tequila, or perhaps even whiskey if you really want to mix things up. I actually did that with one of my cocktails, which was the Hangman's Courier, which was all about Bass Reeves, where I combined this with Lead Slinger's Bourbon, which is a bourbon that's made in Oklahoma and I believe owned by the Black Rifle Coffee Company guys, which is a very smooth standard whiskey, very tasty, and actually plays really well with this gin because it allows each of them to have their moment in the spotlight. The woodiness of the bourbon plus the bright fruity juniperiness of the gin, all back-ended by an inclusion of creme de cacao that gives us a very unique tasting cocktail that is very memorable. But although that it's weird and there's a roller coaster of flavors with it, it still works, which is so wonderful with this particular type of gin because it's so versatile. You're not really hampered by any flavors that you're going to go towards. If you wanted to go more towards a dark fruit taste, which can sometimes bring about some bittersweet elements like overly aged rum, for example. I have Ron Abuelo 30-year-old aged rum that's dark, dates, raisins, those types of fruits that may come out. You include a gin like this, it'll brighten it up a little bit, but it also may bring out some of those bittersweet flavors, which could be refreshing, but sometimes overpowering. Even so, this I think will work well with that too. So this is a wonderfully versatile gin. It's got great taste, and I definitely think it's awesome to experiment with. Now, to the second gin that we have on our little list here is Bombay Sapphire Gin. Now, this is a very, very well-known brand, very popular out of London. It's a dry gin, so it's going to leave that dry, botanical, kind of bitter aftertaste that you would see. This is kind of similar towards the floweriness whenever you taste like a dry French vermouth, for example, in some of your cocktails, or perhaps like a dry wine. That kind of feeling that kind of dries out your palate. That's the sensation that you're going to get with this, but because it's a gin and it includes all of these different flavors, you're also going to get those too on the exhale of the breath. That's kind of the expectation that you're getting with these dry notes. Luckily, again, they list out the ingredients that are on this gin, which is so cool to me because you can really understand them, what is going in to the flavors of these particular types of liquors. They list here juniper berries, to be expected, which they even tell you comes from Italy, lemon peel from Spain, coriander from Morocco, angelica root from Saxony, orris root from Italy, then grains of paradise from West Africa, cubeb berries from Java, cassia bark from Indochina, almonds from Spain, and licorice from China. So you have a wide array of different spices, different botanicals, different roots that all play a key role in bringing about the unique and popular flavor that is Bombay Sapphire. It's a reason why it's used in so many delicious drinks is because of those quality ingredients that are being sourced around the world to make this ever so memorable thing. Now, of course, the bottle is gorgeous. It's got that beautiful blue color, which really is great branding considering that this is called Bombay Sapphire and it looks like a bright blue sapphire. Great job on the glass from them. So iconic, like I said. And I love that it's got a picture of Queen Victoria. Kind of gives you the aura, the sense of this this time valued legacy of this particular brand, to kind of show you like, hey, yeah, we know what we're doing. We've been doing this for a while. We've been around for a while, and this recipe is good. All of those things come out through the marketing on this bottle, which is excellent job by Bombay. Now, as far as the smell on this one, I can I can smell more of the other notes, not just the juniper. This one's more fruity, a little sweeter on the nose. This one, the Bombay, is a lot more reserved, I think, in how the smells are coming out. A lot more grassy, and definitely has that dry element, which will bring out those bitter flavors. Now, I can definitely smell the citrus, like that lemon peel that they say comes from Spain. I can definitely smell that, which leads me to think this is going to go great with any citrus, whether it's going to be lemon juice, lime juice, grapefruit, or even orange juice, although orange juice is a bit sweet for my palate in combining it with gin, but you absolutely could. It would be a delicious drink. You just lose the flavor of the gin more than the others. You can definitely combine this easily with any citrus. Let's give it a taste though. Interestingly enough, this is a far more refined taste on the exhale. So up front, not nearly as sweet as this one. Again, it holds back, very subtle. This goes towards the back of the tongue. Some of those bitter elements start to arrive. They start to awaken up that palate on in your mouth. The stinging numminess of it towards the tip of the tongue, you start to feel it a little bit towards the sides of the tongue and towards the roof of the mouth. We are working with 47% alcohol by volume, so it's the strongest of the three that we actually have here. And then you feel a slight burn, a nice warm sensation in the chest. So overall, it isn't the smoothest, but it's also not overbearing in any way. It's not something that you would certainly choke on or be uncomfortable drinking, I think, even if you were taking it straight up. The elements that I get here, a lot of grasses, you have that wonderful dry element, and the citrus comes out. I'm really constantly thinking of lemon peel, of that specific ingredient that they have included on the bottle, and it makes me think of maybe doing like gin lemonade, or perhaps combining it with a great gimlet, which includes lime juice with a little bit of simple syrup. Easily, the Bombay Sapphire will do very well across any of those routes that you could go down. You could go down the more tart route with a citrus element. You could go down the more botanical route with maybe a chartreuse if you wanted to add some extra sugar to it, or an aperitif like Campari or like tonic water, or even Aperol if you wanted to go a little bit sweet and tart with that. You could probably combine it with that and get out some real nice brightness, and add a little bit of a gin spirit to your Aperol spritz. Certainly something that you can add there. It is a delicious, nuanced gin. However, I would not combine this with anything that is overly sweet, unlike the Aviation, which I think will play better with some of the darker liquors like a whiskey, or even some dark fruitiness like an aged rum, for example. I think this one would actually clash too much with it. The dry nature of it on the palate would probably make it a little bit too bitter in a very unpleasant way. And so I would probably avoid it for that reason, but delicious, excellent for any summer cocktails that you guys have planned. Certainly try them out with Bombay. It's excellent for a reason. You should try it. Now, moving on to our third gin, we have Nirvana hemp flavored gin made from Fat Dog Spirits here in Tampa, Florida. A nice local gin, and one of the reasons why I first was gravitated towards this is honestly the marketing. Again, one of the great things about these bottles is that they have great marketing. It really grabs your attention. The class and style of Aviation, the beautiful blue color bottle of Bombay along with its legacy, and then this stark red bottle with the sitting, it looks like the sitting Buddha and the chakras that are going up and down. You know, it's very eye-grabbing, especially with how deep red this bottle is. But of course, that's just a wrap. The actual bottle underneath is clear. The actual alcohol is also clear, so they didn't put any coloration in there, but they did, of course, infuse this with some hemp. And this gin is distilled from grain, and like I said, it's made locally, but I've only tried this once before, and it really evokes a wholly different flavor than the other two here. And the reason why is, of course, going to be that hemp, which I find absolutely fantastic. And the biggest thing here is a grassy element, which makes sense. I mean, it's hemp, right? You know, one of the slang terms from hemp is, of course, grass. So adding a grassy element by throwing hemp into your gin, it makes sense. Now, of course, I don't believe that there's any THC in this, so you're not going to get high off of it, so you don't have to worry about that. You could get drunk off of it. It is still gin, and I believe this is 40%, so, you know, still a decent amount of alcohol percentage in there, but it's a clear color. You know, so we don't see any coloration from the flavoring. It's obviously not aged. A Tom gin, for example, is aged in barrels usually. So they have a slight coloration. It could be like a nice amber color. All of these are unaged. But immediately I get that grassy note on the nose, which makes me think, again, that bright, summery, delicious cocktails that you could really add with a good tart sweetness. Like you could do passion fruit with this, or you could even do lemon, like a nice gin lemonade would do really, really well, especially with this wine while you're sitting out on the porch on a hot summer day. You just cut the grass, the smell's in the air, and it's in your cocktail too. I think it would do really well. But let's give you a taste to confirm my suspicions. Certainly the smoothest of the bunch, but it's also the lowest alcohol percentage. So this one, 47%, yep, 47%, 42%, 40%. So the lower the percentage, usually the smoother it's going to be. That's why a lot of people emphasize smoothness of whiskeys, because usually whiskeys are at the very least 40% alcohol by volume. So being able to achieve a smooth spirit with such high alcohol content can be difficult at times, and really shows the quality of the maker in that. But with this one, very smooth, very little burn. There is a subtle warmth in my chest, almost no numminess in the mouth, whether on the tongue or on the top of the roof of the mouth or the sides, and very little bitterness too. Yeah. One of the ways that you can experience some of the extra flavors in the profile of a drink is on the exhale, right? You can get some of those subtle aromatic flavors that really start to come alive after the spirit has been ingested, and you get that wonderful aftertaste. In this case, not so much. I do get that grassiness, but overall it's a very muted taste. Not very dry, and certainly very mixable. This is excellent. It's heavy on the hemp flavor, which again, more grassy, not off-putting in any way, not stinky or funky. It just tastes like grass, or at least how grass smells. And it is very refreshing. I think this would do wonderfully with any citrus whatsoever. If you combine it with grapefruit juice, you can make a really good pomelo cocktail, I think, with this, or you could do some gin and lemonade, or, which I said before, you could make a nice gimlet with a grassy element. It kind of reminds me of a vodka, a Polish vodka that I'm a big fan of, that's called Zubrowka. I believe I said that right, which is a bison grass vodka. Now it's actually infused with bison grass, so there's a piece of it that's in there, and that has elements that are similar to lemongrass, so subtly citrusy, subtly sweet, but very floral. Similar on the palate with this one, very nice, very refreshing. and something that I think would really go well with anything that you want to brighten up your day with. But for summer cocktails, this is fantastic. So certainly consider using it if you guys ever come across this wonderful brand. But there you have it, 3 separate gins with each a very unique profile on taste and in presentation and in finish. All fantastic, all very useful in their own different unique cocktails, and certainly worth buying and trying yourself. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys. I definitely encourage you guys to go out and try some cocktails yourself. Use some of these brands. Let me know what you think, what cocktails you guys make. Let me know in the comments, or let me know on Instagram at Top Shelf History, because I would love to see what you guys come up with, and I would love to try some of the cocktails that you guys make. Maybe we'll have one together and I can tell you what I think. I'm sure it's going to be quite delicious. But from all of us here at Top Shelf History, remember that history is better with a drink. Cheers.